Well, hi again everyone. Moving on today from the first 3 videos, which talked about the type of ink, the type of paper, and the type of pens you can use for line and wash. I've got 3 examples today of how you can actually use these things in your sketching and in more complete watercolour line and wash paintings. Got 3 examples here that I've drawn out for you of this nice little teapot. The first one I've drawn out using the Faber-Castell pen, which is waterproof. This is a black one. In this case, the pen is waterproof and we're going to use the wash to provide the shading, not the pen itself. So we've got the the waterproof ink here. So all we have to do then is add the washes to it, and the washes will provide their own shading or tone. So I put 1 wash down here of a burnt sienna. It's looking very flat at the moment. So then what we can do is add to this to provide the shading using the actual paint. So actually we can fill in a little bit here. There's some shading there on the handle. Some shading here on the side of the lid. A little bit here. You could use a smaller brush for the detail if you want to. Some shading here on the lid. Quite dark inside the spout here. And some more shading here on the spout. And maybe a bit more of that going underneath here. There's a little bit of shade coming in here. And a touch here. And a little bit coming down here. Now we can just, with a damp brush, soften these lines. Give us some slightly softer edges there. Remember, you can always lift out a little bit as well if you had too much where you didn't want it. So we can let that dry and gradually build up the layers of tone using the actual paint. Okay, you need to let that dry, and if you wanted to, you can add another layer for the very dark shadows and build it up gradually. Just build that bit in there. Okay, and that ink was waterproof, so it's going to stay exactly where it is. It's going to stay put and not run. So that's one way of doing your sketch, using a waterproof pen and a wash. The second one I've got here, you can see that, is a non-waterproof, water-soluble pen. In this case, I'm using this Stabilo pen. So what I've done here is I've put some shading in using the actual pen. Now obviously the harder you use the pen, the thicker you use the pen, the darker your tones are going to be. So I put a little bit of just shading, hatching on here. And then this time we're not actually going to use a watercolour wash, we're just going to move the soluble ink around. So as I start to add, this is just plain water. If I start to add the shading, the water-soluble pen lifts and runs around. You can get some really nice sketches just doing this, just carrying a little notebook, sketchbook, a water-soluble pen and a brush and some water. I'm going to pull that over here a little bit, pull that around. I left the shading out on that one from the top, never mind. And across here. and maybe a little bit here. So you can get quite an effective little sketch down. I tell you, it looks quite professional in a sketchbook when you do this, and it's so simple. The other thing you can do with that is you have a little blob of your ink here. All I've done is this on a piece of paper on the side of your sketchbook. You can damp your brush, pick this up, and add, if you need to add some somewhere, you can then add it. So you have this little little pool of ink on the side here that you can just use. So that's that one. The last one I've got for today, I can move that up so you can see it. This one at the bottom. We've gone back to the waterproof pen. So this one, a Faber-Castell Pitt pen, which we know is waterproof. So this one is not going to lift like this one. You're not going to be able to make it soluble and move it around. So in this case, you could do your wash with watercolour paint, and these marks here, this shading will act as the tone. So in this case, you might only need to add one layer of your wash because you've got the shading in the form of pen or ink work. So just covering this over very quickly, going over the whole thing. Of course, you can lift out highlights as well if you want to. So just one wash, and the pen is actually creating the tone and the shade on there. Going back to this one, obviously once that's dried a bit, you can add a bit more ink if you need to from your pool at the side here. Let's go back to the top one. That might need a bit more shading, so we could just come back with the burnt sienna. Go over this again for where you want your darker darks. So 3 different ways there of using the pen and washes. Let's put that little shadow in there, depending on what you're looking for, and depending on the circumstance. What I will just mention is that the middle one here, I was talking about if you're out and about, this is a really nice way. It's very portable. It's a very nice way to be able to sketch. A small sketchbook. All you need is this water-soluble pen. Let's put it up the right way so you can see it properly. Your sketchbook, this pen, and some water. And if you don't want to actually carry a paintbrush or a pot of water around with you, what you can do is use these little water brushes, which some of you may have seen. Very easy to carry around. They come with a lid as well. So all you do with this is fill it with water. Place the top back on. This one's lost its thread a bit, I'm afraid. Oh, not so good. Sorry about that. There we go. There we go. And you can squeeze the water out slightly, get it flowing. And then you can just use this instead of your actual paintbrush. So squeeze it very slightly, pick up your ink. It makes it very easy to travel around with. You just pop the lid back on. Different varieties of these, different brands. This is a Derwent one, which is quite nice. can see the lid there, and they do come in different thicknesses as well. The brush will come in different thicknesses, so quite handy, but this is the one I use the most. Don't really use the other sizes very much. So there we go. Hope that's been useful, and keep watching, and there'll be some more video coming on Line and Wash very soon. Thank you. Bye for now.